Hey everyone, and welcome to the Buster Bunch Range DPS Guide, featuring the Bow of the Last Guardian. We're just going to assume that you watched our previous video, Intro to Range Guide, and that you're up to date with ability priority orders and gear setup. If you haven't, please go back and review it, as this video is only going to cover what's relevant for the Tier 95 bow today. Starting with the item itself, make sure to augment your BOLG with Precise 6, Aftershock 1, and Corroming 4, Equilibrium 2. Moving on to the bow's passive effect. For each hit, you're granted a stack of Perfect Equilibrium. Once 8 stacks is reached, an extra attack is fired, dealing a percentage of the last hit. Please note that damage over time abilities like Corruption Shot do not add any stacks. As for the special attack, Balanced by Force, it costs 30% adrenaline and has 2 effects. It deals 175 to 375% damage, and for 30 seconds, the passive effect triggers every 4 stacks instead of 8. Your proficiency with the BOLG is dependent on how well you can make use of the extra hit from its passive. Since the hit damage increases based on the ability that triggers it, the goal is to line up the strongest hitting abilities on the final stack of the Perfect Equilibrium passive. Here's the ability to prioritize in order of strength to trigger the passive. To align the final hit, you can use damage over time abilities like Corruption Shot and Fragmentation Shot to stall the passive from triggering until a strong ability is available. On abilities that hit multiple times, make sure that the passive procs on the strongest hit. An example of that would be a Snapshot, which you'd want to cast on 2 stacks when under the BOLG spec, as the second hit deals a lot more damage. Keeping track of your stacks can be made easier by increasing the size of your buff bar icons and removing the non-essential buff icons from your bar in the buff settings menu. The BOLG's main weakness is its inability to generate adrenaline as effectively as crossbows, due to its lack of access to the adrenaline boosting capabilities of Hydrix bolts. One of the solutions to this problem is to use Incendiary Shot, which grants 10% adren following all critical strike hits for 30 seconds. Here's how to do it. At War's Retreat, target the closest dummy and then get to 100% adrenaline on the crystal. Then, cast Incendiary Shot and click on the adren crystal immediately. This will stall Incend without triggering it, which will give you time to get back to 100% adrenaline. When you're ready, click on the dummy and let your character fire off Incend. Then, quickly surge and dive to the boss portal to start the fight. This should leave you with at least 20 seconds left on the ability. As for the following rotations, you can cheat out Incendiary Shot for free in crit builds by using the adren saving effects of Death Spore arrows, allowing you to immediately follow up with Death Swiftness. On that note, you can also swap the Death Spores for Grickos to fit in extra BOLG specs or other high damaging abilities, though that would require some improvisation and precise tracking of the BOLG stacks to pull off. Moving on to rotations. In reality, your rotation with the BOLG follows the same pattern as your usual rotation. You fit in 2 ECB specs, 2 SGB specs, 2 snapshots and rapid fires, and a tendril. The only differences are that you try to align your abilities to trigger the BOLG passive, and that you cast BOLG spec once or maybe twice if you get lucky with the Dren. A common mistake is focusing on the BOLG spec. While it may seem appealing to constantly proc it at 3 stacks, that'll net you a DPM decrease compared to following the standard pattern. Now that we have a general understanding of how the BOLG works, let's go through a rotation starting with 20 seconds of Incend. We're going to start off by casting Death Swiftness, drinking an Adren Pot, and throwing a Vuln Bomb. Then, trigger the ECB spec, Gricko, and SGB spec from your EOF. Follow that up with a Snapshot, then a Rapid Fire, which you should cancel when you reach 7 stacks. Next, use the BOLG spec to trigger the 8th stack, followed by Gricko and Tendrils. Renew the ECB spec, and then use basics until you can cast Snapshot and Rapid Fire. While your thresholds are on cooldown, dump a Dren with specs as needed. If you followed those steps, you should be able to get off an SGB spec in the last tick of Death Swiftness. Well, that's it for the Buster Bunch Bow of the Last Guardian DPS guide. We hope you found this video useful, and if you have any tips, feedback, or just generally enjoyed the content, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you in the next.